welcome back to FordeeTV. I'm your host, Fordee. So today, guys, we are doing a double exposure and disintegration tutorial in Photoshop. This is the final result. We'll be aiming for something like this. This is the Sagrada Familia double exposed on my face, disintegrating out of my head because I live, breathe Barcelona, yo. Well, also because I live here, right? Anyway, let's jump over here. This is our start, right? This is a side view of myself shot on a green screen. You do not have to be in front of a green screen. However, it will make it easier for you to move the background. Of course, if it's just in front of a white wall or a black wall or something that's a solid color, it will make it much easier to remove this background. First thing I'll do is go over to the layers palette, double click on background, press enter. When I do so, I have unlocked this layer. Next, I'm going to come over and make sure that I have the magic wand. Well, I want the quick selection tool selected. Next, I'm going to click in the green area, boom, click and drag in the green area here. And every time I'm doing that, it's adding to the selection. Because I've unlocked this layer, when I press delete on my keyboard, it's going to remove that and have transparency. I'll press Command D on my keyboard to undo the selection or release the selection. Next, I'll come over here to the crop tool, and when I do that, I could resize this, right? I don't know exactly what I want it to be, but maybe something like this, little room in the front, oops, undo, maybe stop moving myself and maybe move this edge, maybe something like this, I don't know, huh? I'll go ahead and press the checkbox up here, and this is now our new resized canvas, right? What I'd like to do also with my head is I want to desaturate it a little bit, but I want to do it in a different way. I'm going to press Command J on my keyboard to make a duplicate copy of layer 0. You'll see I'll have layer 0 copy here. Next, I'll come over to the adjustment layer, and I'll select black and white. When I do that, it is turning everything below black and white, huh? So I could right click on this. It's unnecessary in this situation because there's nothing else, but I could say create clipping mask, and now it's only affecting the layer below. Now, what I want to do is switch from default to blue filter and change the opacity to 50%, huh? Next, with this adjustment layer selected, I'll press Command E on my keyboard to make sure that I merge it with the layer below. Now I can turn on and off the visibility. You can see the change, right? You can still see some color in my skin, but we've toned it down a bit, which will make it cooler when I apply the effects that I'm going to apply. Next, what we want to do is find the image we're going to use, right? I'm using the Sagrada Familia photo. I'll press Command A on my keyboard, Command C to copy. We'll come back over here and press Command V. Next, I'm going to leave the crop tool because obviously we don't want to actually resize stuff, and just switching over to the move tool, huh? Next, we want to change the orientation of this photo because my idea is that the Sagrada Familia leaves my head like this, ba, 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 and clouds drifting off to the left. So I will press, first, let's drop the opacity to 50%. This way we could see below. I'll press Command T on my keyboard to transform this layer. I'll right click and go to flip horizontally. Now the clouds are going off to the left, exactly what I want, right? You may or might not need to do this or want to do this, right? Next, when we come up here and we hover over one of the corners, this makes it so that we could change the size of this photo or layer and keeping its aspect ratio. When we move it a little bit away, notice how it changes. This now becomes rotational, right? We want to rotate this and resize it so that my idea is I'm not going to use this part of the building, huh? So I'm going to try to figure out what looks nice and keep adjusting and repositioning because the idea is like the end of the spires here is what we'll use, right? So maybe even turn it more, make it larger, something like I don't know, something like that, huh? I'll press enter on my keyboard to apply the transformation. I'll come over to opacity and bring it back to 100. Pressing Command on my keyboard and clicking on the layer of my head will make sure that that layer is selected, which it was just my head, right? So if I come over here to add layer mask, making sure that I'm on the Sagrada Familia layer, and I click on it, it applies that mask, which was the selection of my head, right? Let's change the name of some of this stuff. We'll call this layer model. It's the first time I've ever been accused of being a model, but hey, I'll take it, yo. Anyway, and on this one, we're gonna double click and we'll call it Sagrada Familia. Okay, next we want to modify this mask. So let's click on the mask. We are going to, notice white is what is shown in the mask and black is what is not shown. So we want to click on black and also change the blend mode from normal. Let's select soft light, right? Next, select the brush, making sure black is my foreground color and I have the mask layer selected. We want to change the brush I have to like a normal soft brush. Let's scroll up, select this, And we can see this brush, okay, it says 150 pixels but up here, but it depends, you know, like for your image, the size of the image, etc., what size you should use. But what I'm trying to do here, and let's change the opacity to 50% of the brush. What I'm trying to do is click, and what I'm showing the edges of my face, my nose, my goatee, getting rid of some of this away from the eye, making my face more prevalent, maybe on the ear a bit, right? And I have to click a few times because remember it's 50% opacity. But the reason for that is when I click and I drag places like here, the idea is just to remove some, not all. And I want to remove this harsh edge. Remember, this is a soft brush, so I can come click over here, and that removes that harsh edge. That's pretty cool. And we're looking all right. Something to this effect, maybe. And remember, in the final that I showed you, I was just coming off the forehead here and maybe coming down to the bottom of the neck, a little bit of the top of the shirt, right? So that's looking good, right? In fact, we can commit this. If we press Command, Alt, or Option, Shift, and 2, not 2, E, I'm sorry, Command, Shift, Option, E, boom. What we did is merge all those layers into a new layer, right? So I can show that to you by hiding all the layers below, and boom. It's now just this layer. We did this because now we're going to disintegrate part of my head, right? It's not going to hurt. Don't worry. I took some Advil. I'm going to be all right, right? Next, let's add a layer mask. When I do that, it's all white by default, which means everything is showing, which is fine, right? We want to make sure black is selected because we are going to hide some stuff. We're going to come up here to our brushes. We're going to scroll down, and I'm going to put a link in the description where you could download these disintegration brushes. They are free, huh? Now, as far as which one I'm going to use, I don't even know which is which, but we're going to use a few different ones, right? I'm going to make my mask smaller by pressing on my left bracket key, and look at that. It's making it smaller. You can also see up here the number 900, boom, 800, 700. We're just making it smaller. We can click on this and we can change the rotation of this brush. And sometimes when you're using a brush like this, it's important because the idea is I don't want the whole brush in my head like this. I just want to use the edges. And so you'll notice that our opacity right now, if we set it to 100%, that would be better. And we're just clicking, we're just adding some stuff right there. And we're going to do this in a few passes, huh? So something like that. Boom. Next, we are going to switch just to add a degree of depth. If we use the same brush, it won't look as cool. Let's use a different brush. We're going to make this smaller. Let's also rotate this brush, maybe something like right there. And what you see is I'm trying to get the edge as I point to my screen like you can see what I'm pointing at, right? What I'm going to do is make this quite a bit smaller. First, let Photoshop error me out. Press the left bracket key to make this smaller, and I'm going to start cutting into my head a bit more, right? And so looking good, looking good. Now let's switch again the disintegration brush to something else. We will bring the scale down by pressing the left bracket key. And let's click some more. Now maybe even getting further into the head, huh? And again, we're really trying to get rid of that hard edge on the edge of my head. It's starting to look pretty nice. I think something like this is going to be just fine. And boom. So, all right, now we've got my head a little bit disintegrated, right? And I promise you guys, it didn't hurt a bit. Make sure you take your Advil or aspirin before you try this effect. And what I want to do here is rotate the brush just so I can get this part right here. It looks a little bit too hard for me, right? I don't like the edge to be so hard for the effect that we're going for. Right? Next, over here in our palette, I'm going to switch to the Move tool, and I'm going to select the layer that has the Sangrado Familia. I'll press Command J to make a copy. I'll drag this above, and granted, I could have used that layer because I'm currently not using it, but just to keep things clean, I'm going to do that. Huh? I'm going to select this layer, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to delete this layer mask. Making sure I'm selecting the layer mask, I'll right-click, go to Delete Layer Mask, and boom, now it's here. Huh? Now, I'll press Command on my keyboard, click on the model layer, and then press Alt on my keyboard or Option and press the layer mask. And now what I've done is I made sure my head is not in that mask, right? I'll make sure I have the mask selected, and then I'll come over here and make sure that I have my brush selected by pressing B or clicking here. And what I want to do is switch from this disintegration mask. We're going to scroll back up, and I want this soft round, right? You can make sure it's soft so the hardness is not 0 or set to 0, and we want to change the size. For sure, 2500 is too big. Huh? So depending on the size of your image will depend on the size of the brush. I don't know, something like this. And we're going to click and drag, and we're just going to basically mask out or get rid of the part of this image that we're not going to use, right? So I'll click once here, press Shift on my keyboard, boom, click up there. That will make a straight line. Then I will get rid of this, And another thing that I could do that I didn't do here, I noticed, is select this layer right here, or select the Sagrada Familia piece, right? I'm gonna disable the layer mask by right-clicking and disabling, and then I'm gonna come over here to my magic wand, and I wanna make sure the magic wand is selected. I'll click in the transparent area, then I'll come up to select, I'll go to modify and go to expand. I'll set it to 10 pixels, and what that's going to do is include some of that image. Next, I'll come up to edit, I'll select fill, and make sure content aware is selected and press OK. Perfect. So what that did is add some clouds up here in the corner because we are going to use this area of the image. We won't use down here or over here to the left, so it's fine. I'll right click on the layer mask, select enable layer mask, press Command D on my keyboard to remove that selection, and now I want to make sure I'm on the brush, I have black selected, and again, I select the layer mask here, and let's start masking some of this out, right? So maybe starting, I don't know, somewhere around here. Like I disintegrated part of my shirt, so I should include some of that. So let's do something like that. So again, here, maybe one of the ways to fix this is some of the tree is shown here. So again, we can right click on this layer mask, disable, select the image itself, right? And let's press L on our keyboard to bring up the polygon lasso tool. And let's just select this stuff and see if it will fill this with clouds. I don't know. Let's press edit, go to fill, make sure content aware is selected, press enter. And you know what it did right here, which is excuse me, which is what I think is all we're using. We'll right click over here on the layer mask, select enable, and it's looking good. I'll press Command D on my keyboard, and this is what we're looking for, huh? Excuse me. I'm going to change the blend mode from soft light to normal over here, and I'm going to make sure that this mask is committed to this layer. I'll press plus to create a new layer. I'll press Command E on my keyboard to merge this layer with the layer below. It's going to ask me if I want to apply the mask before merging, and I'll say apply. Now, this is a single layer. Perfect, right? There's no mask, there's no nothing. Next, we'll come over here to the layer mask. I'm going to press boom to add a layer mask. And while having the layer mask selected, I can press Command I to invert it. Alternatively, if I had pressed Option and clicked on layer mask, it would have filled it with black to start, right? Next, what we want to do is come over to the brush tool. And with the brush tool selected, again, we're going to scroll down to these disintegration brushes. We're going to find something kind of cool. I don't even know which ones they are. So I'll press the bracket key to make it smaller so we can see what we're working with. And let's layer this one also. So we'll start maybe with an opacity of 50, and we were going to make this one quite small, and we were going to click around. We need to make sure white is our foreground color with this mask selected, right? When we do that, we are revealing some of the image below us. And I'm just clicking all around, huh? I apologize for the text going off. Normally I have my phone on silent, but I forgot this time, huh? All right, so I don't know, something like this, huh? Looking all right. So now that we've done this in a few places, obviously you cannot tell what's below, but like I said, we're layering this. So we'll select a different one. We will press the left bracket key on our keyboard to bring this down quite a bit more, maybe something like this. Let's change the opacity to 75, right? We'll click here, and maybe we will click and we will rotate this thing just to add some differences and interest and ba-ba-ba, right? So maybe even right there, right there. Right there, right there. All right, next we will change this again to a different one and maybe drop this down in size. Well, we pressed the left bracket when we needed to be out of it to do it. So now we're pressing left bracket. We're making this brush size much smaller. We're going to change the opacity to 100%, and we're really going to get in there where these towers are, right? Because we want the towers to show. And just different places. Some areas more, some areas left. The idea is this is fully disintegrated. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe something like this, huh? And it's up to you how much you do. Now, another alternative option, we can come over here, click on the plus sign, right? And I can switch over and make sure that black is selected, or even change it from black, maybe here to 75, 75% or white. Press OK, and now I can add some gray in here, right? And this is just giving some more interest. I'm using this disintegration brush, and just like that, huh? We can also switch this to black, or maybe 50%. Let's see, or let's put 25%. There we go. Quite a bit of contrast. And again, like I said, we can just come over here, add it in a few places. Now, this is not matching the image below, but this is adding contrast and look and whatever. So we'll do that. We'll come over here to the opacity. Maybe we'll set this to 60%. That looks pretty cool. Even though that has nothing to do with the image, we've just added some contrast, etc., right? The next thing that we can do is come over here, scroll down to the bottom, select the bottom layer, click on this adjustments layer and select solid color. Next, we can use the eyedropper to select part of the image. I don't know, what about this part of my eye? So this is kind of like an off-white reddish color, right? Maybe we can come over here to Sagrada Familia, pick something like this. You can pick something from the image that will make it look cool, right? Now, obviously, what you select will kind of change the feel of the end of this image, right? But I think part of my eye looks pretty cool. Now, we bring this underneath everything that's showing. And on the top layer, if we select that, we can click on this and come down to Photo Filter. When we apply the Photo Filter adjustment layer, it gives us options. If we select Cooling Filter 82, right, and then maybe set this to 75 or something like that, now we're getting somewhere, right? This thing is starting to meld. Guys, I hope you like this tutorial. You found it informative, useful, and you use it in a project. If you do, go ahead and leave a comment with a link to what you created. That would be awesome for me to check it out. Also, if you did like the video, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends. You know the drill. Until next time, I'm out.